It's no secret that historically we've severely underfunded transit systems here in the US, leading to, honestly, some quite laughably inadequate public transportation networks. However, having some type of system is better than none, and we should always try to encourage people to use them whenever they can. That is, as long as you can understand some of the honestly ridiculous map designs that are out there. Like, take a look at Houston's Metro map. I can't even tell which lines are buses and which are light rail. Compare that to something as sleek and simple as LA's transit map. Despite having a reputation for unabated car culture, this design makes transit look interesting and fun to ride. When people can't understand how the network functions, it makes them less likely to take buses or subways where they need to go. In this spirit, I want to take this opportunity to highlight some maps made by riders and designers that are actually better than the official maps. And of course, I'll be giving credit and linking the original sites and socials for each of these map makers in the description. That is, as long as I can find them. Let's start with a classic city on the eastern seaboard, Boston, Massachusetts. This whole project was actually kind of inspired by a recent trip that Catherine and I took to Boston where I got really confused about where each Green Line train runs. I mean, take a look at the official map. You would have absolutely no idea which trains terminate at Government Center and which ones continue on. In fact, from here it's unclear whether or not some trains even terminate at Government Center. That's why I made this version. Yes, for this one we're highlighting a map that I made. I can't stress this enough. If you're making a transit map, you should show a different line for every single service. There are 4 Green Line services, each stopping at different locations. You can't just combine them into one line and expect people to understand. It creates too much ambiguity and it leads to frustrated riders. Besides the Green Line, I also fixed the Silver Line, which is Boston's lazy attempt at bus rapid transit. Another fun detail I added is indicating whether or not a certain section of the Green or Silver Lines are street running, which makes it easier to tell where service might be a little slower due to traffic. Next up, we're going to the nation's capital, DC. While I don't think the current metro map for the city is bad necessarily, it is a pretty chunky design and I feel like it could be streamlined a bit. Enter this design by Dovak. I absolutely love the new take on the DC system here, even though it still does bug me that some of the station names are on the lines, like here at McPherson Square. Then again, I have never tried to make a map of this particular metro, and I assume it's just really difficult to make that part work. Some may find the 30-60 degree angles a bit strange here, but personally, I really like them. I have never seen any other map pull this off as effectively as this one does. And even if that doesn't float your boat, the circular outline for the district beltline really helps tie the whole design together. And I think that's just beautiful. Let's take a trip down south to Florida. Here in the city of Miami, 70 degrees is considered winter weather, and deranged, arrogant men are called candidates. Now, I really didn't want to consider any fantasy maps in this video because the whole point is to present better maps of current systems. However, I decided to make one slight exception. Theodoræ Ditsek's, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, map of the Miami Metro Mover comes from a whole project on the future of South Florida transit. The reason I really wanted to highlight this is because I absolutely love the graphical style, color choices, literally like everything about this design. My favorite is definitely the gradients under the direction arrows for the center of the Metro Mover, and overall it creates a striking visual identity and branding for the system. I swear, everyone would ride transit if we made it look as simple and beautiful as this. Of course, as long as we also decide to keep teaching people how to read. Back on the Northeast Corridor, there's one city with a storied, intriguing transit history, but with an absolutely abysmal modern map. I'm talking, of course, about Philadelphia, which bizarrely has a very disappointing network. I was actually going to make a whole video about Philly where I would have talked about like all the different things that SEPTA could implement simply from a branding and network cohesion perspective, albeit in a very armchair manner. But it turns out that Philadelphia is actually doing a lot of that right now. As part of their effort to rebrand the system, SEPTA released this preliminary map design that brings nice visual identity and a much clearer naming system. I particularly like the fact that they're able to show major bus routes without making the map feel too cluttered, although I do think that the line widths are just a bit too small in my opinion. Regardless, this is an immense improvement over the current map, and I'm very excited to see where SEPTA takes this. Everything is bigger in Texas, except when it comes to public transit. Let's take a look at Dallas's metro system, which perplexingly is one of the larger Texan transit networks. Looking at the official map, we can see that although this isn't the worst design by far, it feels very bulky and dated. The best thing that a transit map can communicate is exactly the opposite of this, something that's clean and modern. Gabe Tiberius Colombo presents us with a different map version, which is by far clearer and more sleek. It is a very minimalist design that describes the network in a simple yet intriguing manner. Very solid design. Lastly, let's turn to the architecture city itself, Chicago, home to Frank Lloyd Wright, the one architect that most people know. Chicago actually has one of the best American transit networks after New York, but their official map always puts the central loop of the system in an inset. To me, this is a pretty lazy method of drawing a map instead of doing the hard work of actually diagramming the loop without an inset. Not only is it a very clean and approachable map, but it also doesn't relegate the loop to an inset. This way, your eye doesn't have to keep jumping back and forth between the inset and the rest of the map while you're trying to plan a journey. Thank you for this massive improvement of a diagram. However, there's actually one more Chicago L map that I want to highlight, which is this beautiful Frank Lloyd Wright stained glass inspired map by Max Roberts. This is just such a lovely spin on an amazing system. Even though it's not a practical map by any means, I totally want a framed copy of this just so that I can stare at it for hours and hours. This was a really fun video to make, and I really hope you enjoyed seeing all the different takes on transit networks. If you want to support me and the channel, you can join my Patreon or even support me on Etsy. Also, let me know which of these transit maps is your favorite. I'm really curious to hear that. If you're still watching here at the end, type, I don't know, pantograph or something in the comments, make everyone just really confused. Anyways, merci pour avoir regardé et ça c'est tout.